First, I want to thank everybody for coming out on this fine evening. It's always great to be around my fellow Tea Party patriots. To let you know a little bit about myself, for the last 3.5 years, I've been running a political blog, usofrn.com. Pretty much from the beginning, I have been a part of the Tea Party movement. I can remember attending my first rally when the Tea Party Express showed up at Davis Park in Rockford. It was my first time meeting a lot of people, including Joe Walsh, who was a great guy. And if you're looking for a congressional candidate to help out, him and Bobby Schilling needed a lot. For the last 2 years, I have been a co-coordinator of the Rockford Tea Party, and this past spring, I completed my second book. It is available now at Amazon.com. It is an ebook called We Can Do Better. Now, I want to talk to you today about what I opened up the book talking about. Spending. Our federal government spends and spends and spends some more. Every hour, on the hour, our government will borrow $150 million. 40 cents out of every dollar Washington spends is borrowed. Spending is at a clip now where a quarter of our entire economy constitutes government spending. We have not seen levels like that since the World War II. Now, as bad as that is, we've got all kinds of other problems in this nation. We have 43 months of consecutive, 43 consecutive months of unemployment being above 8%. We have 40-odd million people on food stamps. We have massive increases in the welfare rolls. Our debt has gone from $10.6 trillion before Obama took office to now, this past week and a half ago, $16 trillion. To give you an idea about how much money that is, that translates to more than $48,000 per person. Every one of the 310 million people in this country owe nearly $50,000 as their share of the national debt. I don't know about you, but I don't have that kind of money laying around to give to Washington. Now, as bad as all of that is, we still haven't even touched the $100 trillion gorilla in the back of the room, which is the unfunded entitlement liability for Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. The high estimate for that is over $100 trillion. The lowball estimate for that unfunded liability is $69 trillion. So we have some massive spending problems that we need to take care of. And the great thing is, despite what all the Democrats say, we conservatives, we Tea Party activists, we have solutions for this. Instead of spending 25% of our economy on government, why don't we share 18% as called for in Mike Lee's balanced budget amendment? How nice would that be? Instead of 4 years of trillion-plus dollar deficits, our government each year spends exactly what it brings in. Wouldn't that be nice? Now, unfortunately, in order to get Washington to only spend what it takes in, it's going to have to decrease what it spends, and rather significantly. We've had budget deficits these last 4 years of 1.3, 1.4, 1.2, and this year will probably end at about 1.19 trillion dollars. Now, if we're overspending that much each year, we have to reduce spending that much if we are to ever hope of seeing the debt clock stop and eventually reverse itself. Utah Senator Mike Lee, South Carolina Senator Jim DeMint, and Kentucky Senator Rand Paul have figured out that if you cut different things in the government within 5 years, according to their plan, you can have a budget balance. And their plan and my plan, which I spell out in the book, accomplish the same thing. Over a number of years, you eventually get to the point where the deficit is eliminated. We all know that there is $1 billion worth of unpaid taxes federal employees owe. But the federal government, half of its payment errors equal $44 billion. So we have a dichotomy. We can get so much from one spot. Now, they'll leave us trillions and trillions of dollars to get rid of. Now we get rid of something even larger, and we're still left with yet more we have to get rid of. And so, more we will get rid of. Department of Housing and Urban Development, 70% of its budget goes to rental income assistance. They give rental vouchers to people. The entire Department of Housing and Urban Development's budget is $60.8 billion. The Department of Education, that teaches no child, employs no teachers, and has not been of much use for the last 30 years, is $85.8 billion. There's two government departments we could entirely get rid of, and we wouldn't come up with $200 billion to get rid off of that over $1 trillion amount to make the budget balanced. According to the Government Accountability Office, there is between $100 and $200 billion annually wasted or lost to inefficiencies in federal job training programs. Medicare and Medicaid each year have a combined $70 billion in waste in them. So instead of looking to find one magic bullet to get rid of that $1.4 trillion, cutting the entire Defense Department won't even get you half of that amount. But one by one, if you take little cuts here and bigger cuts here, you eventually can come up with, as I do, $1.4 trillion that you can get rid of. The man of the hour has arrived. Thank you. Great to see you, Steve. Good to see you, too. Okay. So as we're compiling all these small cuts to get to our grand total number, we're eventually doing one thing. We're making the government smaller, and smaller, and smaller, because our government is very, very, very big. The federal budget is just short of $4 trillion. In 2006, the last year that the Republicans had full control in Washington over the budget, over Congress, our federal budget was $2.6 trillion. So you can see in just 6 years with Democratic control, our budget has increased well over $1 trillion. That's $1 trillion more in government. That's more programs like Solyndra. And that's massive amounts of government that we have to start whittling away if we ever have any chance of getting rid of this deficit. Getting rid of the deficit is the only way the national debt does not say 16 trillion or 20 trillion as it eventually will if things aren't left unchanged. Because it started seeing it go backwards to 15 and 14 and then eventually 10. It'd be nice. It's going to take work. And part of that work is making sure that there are more great people like Mike Lee and Rand Paul and Jim DeMint in the Senate and in the House. Which is why we have to help out our candidates here locally. If you helped out the Ted Cruz race for the Senate in Texas, great. If you're helping out a congressman like Joe Walsh or Bobby Schilling, great. But these are the kind of people we have to send to Washington. Because Lord knows Dick Durbin or Harry Reid or Nancy Pelosi aren't going to cut the trillions of dollars in spending that we're going to have to. Their entire philosophy is to continue to spend at this breakneck pace and expect the rich people to pay for it all. There's one sad thing that no Democrat will ever tell you about taxing the rich. If you took everything, absolutely everything a person earns over $10 million a year, the government wouldn't even have enough money to fund itself for a month. Now, as we've been going through here, as I mentioned, there's a $100 trillion gorilla lurking in the back of the room in terms of our unfunded entitlement liabilities. As as you all may well be aware, Barack Obama has no plan to address that debt. Paul Ryan, to an extension, Mitt Romney, do. Mainly because Mitt Romney picked Paul Ryan to be his running mate. As right now, we spend over $500 billion a year for Medicare. There are 44-odd million people on the program. If we were giving each one of those people $8,000 every year to put their health care, the program would be saving $167 billion. That's we're just straight up giving them $80,000. If we were giving every one of those 44 million people $10,000 each, we're still saving tens of billions of dollars. Now, it's going to be tough. It's going to be difficult. But if we are willing to work together, we send the right people to Washington, we can get things to change in this country. We can make things better. Thank you.